Alright, this is Dan here. Happy to come back at you with another Hockey Parenting 101 video. Today's video I'm going to talk about the hockey skate, the most important piece of equipment that your youth hockey player is gonna have while they're on the ice, because this is what attaches their foot directly to the ice, and it's super important to get right. So I'm going to go into the details about purchasing or evaluating skates before you purchase them for your hockey player. Let's get started. So obviously you guys, your kids are probably going to school, unless they're homeschooled, but even if they're, it doesn't matter school or not, as your child youth player is growing up, one of the well, I guess most frustrating things as a parent is that you're constantly buying them shoes because their feet are constantly growing. I'm sure you're like us. If my daughter going to school, she probably goes through 1 or 2 shoe sizes a year, at least right now, as she grows up. So you can almost guarantee the same thing's going to happen with the skate. You're probably going to go through one, if you're lucky, you'll go through 1 pair a year. Sometimes you get, in that half year scenario where it's beginning of the year, you're good. Halfway through, they need a new pair. And then by the end of the season, going into the next season, you're buying another pair. So within a 12-month time span, you're buying 2 pairs of skates, which can get expensive. So the first thing I'll tell you is that if you're going to buy used, this is probably the best equipment to buy used, just because you're going to go through lots of skates. So if you can find them used, great. I mentioned in previous videos that you got options like sideline swap, play it against sports, things like that. Equipment swaps at your local rink as well. I have so many pairs of skates up in my attic right now that I need to just donate, and typically that's what I do. I just donate instead of trying to sell them because I'm lazy. This pair here that my daughter's currently wearing, a size 5, we actually got these on sideline swap. As you can see, they look brand new, which they pretty much were. Come to find out, the person I bought them from, their son was a goalie slash skater, most full-time, 75% goalie, 25% skater. So he bought a pair of skates, and to be honest with you, when I got them, I didn't even think they were ever sharpened. So they're pretty much brand new, but I got them used, sideline swap, probably half the price. Older model, but still in great shape. Good pair of Bauer Vapors. So it was definitely a good purchase. So that's the first thing I'll tell you about. The second thing is that while your kids will grow out of these quick, I strongly advise that you do not buy skates with room to grow. They need to be snug fit. You got to understand, when your kid is out there skating, that you want their skate to be an extension of their body. So when they tell their foot to move, their skate moves with it. There is no delay between the foot moving and the skate moving because there's too much room in the boot. So it needs to be a snug fit. Not saying tight, they don't need to have their toes jammed in the toe box, but it needs to be snug, and the heel needs to be snug. So when you loosen up the laces and put their foot in, it kind of slides in, and then you feel like, almost not like a suction, but you feel like it perfectly fits inside the boot. Now, if they're new, or even if they're used and not completely worn in, their feet are going to hurt, and they're going to tell you they're going to hurt, and you're just going to have to monitor it. Again, if it's my feet hurt because my toes are jammed, okay, that's too tight. But if it just hurts, they have to mold over time. They'll break in the boot, just like a hard pair of just walking boots or like shoes. They need time to break in. You can go the oven baking approach, which speeds that up a little bit, but we've done it before with our kids with their skates, and to be honest with you, there's still a break-in process. It's not 100%, so you could save some money and not get them baked. You can even do it at home. There are do-it-yourself videos on how to bake it in the oven. You just got to be careful because it's an oven, it gets hot, so if you leave it in too long, I guess you know what would happen. You would melt the boot and destroy it, because it's plastic and composite and padding, and that's what it's made of, so it wouldn't last too long in the oven. So I don't recommend it. I just recommend you let them break them in like the old-fashioned way. Also, so again, like make sure that it fits well, because you want them when they're moving. You don't want to lose any advantage, any efficiency, because they're too loose. It's also benefits if they're tight enough around the ankle area. You don't want to hold. I mean, you want some movement in the ankle, but especially when they start skating, their ankle strength's not going to be there at an earlier age. So you want to make sure that they're fairly tight. Other things when you're looking at a skate, if they're used, just ensure the boot is in good condition. Like there's not a whole lot of cracks. This piece here, believe it or not, serves a purpose. It protects your back of your leg from getting cut or hit by a skate blade, which could hurt. And we'll get into that, why that's a problem, because they're sharp. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Just make sure that it doesn't necessarily have to be stiff. This one's still good. Over time, they'll lose their integrity, and they'll start moving around, which is fine as long as it's still there. As long as it's not flop this way, it'll be fine. Make sure that the truck, which is this white part that attaches the boot itself to the blade, or the runner. You'll hear it be called the runner, the steel blade, or it could be steel. It could be other materials. We'll get into that in a minute. Make sure that this is not cracked, because if this is cracked, then it's a waste. You're gonna end up. You're gonna have to buy a new. You can buy a new truck. Like you can have it riveted and go to a skate repair shop, but it would probably cost you more money to do that than just to buy a new pair of skates. So even if you buy a pair and it's good, and then your kid takes a puck to the truck and it cracks it, you're gonna have to get a new one. You can see this one's beat up. It gets cut a little bit, but it's still in good condition. And then the runner, the blade itself. So I'll talk about sharpening in a minute, but you want to make sure that there's enough material still. This one's got I would guess about a ½ inch, maybe a little bit more remaining. ½ inch, that's pretty good. That's typically how thick they are. But over time, you're going to sharpen these, and you're going to keep taking material away. It happens gradually. It doesn't happen like you can use a pair of skates for a couple years before you need to buy a new blade. So with your youth player currently going through so many skate sizes that I'd be surprised if you go through a new blade or need a new blade by the time you just need a new boot. So, but just make sure there's enough material there. If it's getting too thin, then that's another red flag. So speaking of the runner, short story, my son, when he went to skating lessons, 8 years old, first time on the ice, and he's trying to skate with his new skates that I bought, and he's sliding all over the place, like he can barely stand. And come to find out, his dumb dad did not get them sharpened, so they were dull. So when you sharpen skates, or when you get a skate runner like brand new, if you look down, and the trained eye can see this, but if you look down the length of the runner, it's flat. When you get them sharpened, what happens is that you bring them to a skate sharpening place, or you buy your own sharpener, which I'll also talk about that at the end of the video. What happens is they take a grinding wheel that comes across the blade, and basically carves a divot down the middle of the blade, and then it leaves edges. So each skate, once they're sharpened, it leaves a hollow, and you'll hear radius of hollow. People will talk about that, and I'll talk about that too here shortly. Anyway, it leaves a hollow, so you end up, once they're sharpened, each skate ends up with a right edge and a left edge, which is super important. When your child's out there skating, they use both of those edges on both feet to move, to turn, to glide, to pick up speed. They're digging into that ice, and without that edge, they can't dig in. So it's important that your child's skates are sharpened. And it's not a one-time thing, because as they skate, actually the material wears off. They get dull, just like a knife. Once you're utilizing it, it gets dull and needs to be sharpened. Same with the skate blades. need to be sharpened. So when you bring them, get them sharpened. I mentioned radius of hollow earlier. There are different kinds of radius of hollow. The standard is a 1/2 inch. So if you look at a circle with a 1/2 inch radius, all the math wizards out there, that's what I mean. They'll take a grinding wheel that'll do a hollow of a 1/2 inch radius. So that's the depth of the hollow. So a 1/2 inch is standard. If you get like a 5/8 inch, that'll make, obviously it's a larger radius circle, it'll make a deeper hollow, and it'll make the edges, it'll make sharper edges. I could tell you that the reasonings behind the different hollows is the reason that you read about is if you're a smaller kid and you don't weigh as much, you tend to not dig into the ice as much as, say, a heavier kid or an adult. So if you get a deeper hollow, it'll allow you to dig into the ice better versus a 1/2 inch, say, for an older kid. And then same with a 1/4 inch. If you're a really heavy person and you don't want to dig in too much, you get like a 1/4 inch, so it's a little less edge than a half. It's a 1/4 inch less than a 1/2 inch hollow. So you'll dig in less, but you're already digging in because you're heavy. I will tell you, I think a lot of that's hocus pocus. My kids, and even my son and myself and my daughter, who's half my weight, we all use a 1/2 inch hollow. I think something like that is important if you're trying to get that, your 99% efficiency up to another 0.5% efficiency. So to be honest with you, standard hollow is going to work for most everybody. So I don't recommend. It's up to you. It's up to your kid's preference. Maybe they find out that, hey, I like that hollow better. I don't see any merit or value in the changing it from a 1/2 inch, but to each its own. So at least you know there are different cuts. Another thing about skates, I forgot to mention earlier, when you're buying these, you can find skates ranging from, used skates even, ranging from $50 to $700. And I'll tell you that while the $700 skates may be made of a little bit lighter material, the runner, the blade may be a different material, a lighter material, the truck may be lighter, the boot may be less time to break in, maybe lighter, just lighter materials. For a youth player, especially at the house, but even at the travel level, I don't think it's necessary to buy them like pro level skates. I can tell you, my son in high school bought a $700 pair of skates. I didn't see any improvement out of him from his $200 pair of skates. Now, he could tell people and brag about his $700 pair of skates, but it did not improve his game. So if you're a pro or trying to go pro, maybe you're looking every little bit of edge you can to improve your chances to keep moving up. Okay, fine, then buy the expensive stuff. But these skates here, I think were retail $150. I got them for $70 on sideline swap. My daughter's flying around the ice. I don't think if I bought her, I'm 100% sure if I bought her a $700 pair of skates, I would not see any market improvement. So, but if you have the money, by all means, buy your kid expensive skates, but not necessary. Back to sharpenings. Time between sharpenings. Again, it's all about how much skating are they doing. Typically, my daughter's got 2 practices a week and 2 games a week, so she's on the ice moving around 2 hours a week because they're constantly moving, or most of the time moving. So you would say 45 minutes of practice, so an hour and a half a week. Plus, she's got 2 games. She's on the ice 20 minutes a game, so that's say another almost 2/3 of an hour, I would say. And then I would sharpen just a standard sharpening once a week based on 3 hours ice time. You probably get away with 4 or 5 hours. Eventually, sometimes I will go and my daughter will say, hey, they're getting dull. She'll let me know, and then that's when I'll sharpen them. But typically I sharpen them once a week about after 3 to 4 hours of skating. What else? Blade protector dryer, like I have these protectors. They go over the blade like so between games. While and anytime she's takes them off, puts them in her bag to protect the blade, because you don't want dings, because they'll mess the edge up if you drop them. Also, these actually have a wicking. They have terry cloth kind of fabric in them. One thing you want to do is make sure that when they come off the ice, there's going to be you're going to have snow from all the stopping and stuff on the blade. You want to make sure that comes off. It's also wet, so that's why I use the terry cloth protector to dry them, because these will rust. So you don't want, unless you want to be refurbing your blades constantly, you want to make sure that they stay dry between times on the ice. So recommend these. They're good. You can even get some of these these are supposed to be, you can walk around. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Just when your kids walking on their skates, most rinks are good about having padding that they can run around on between the locker room and the rink. Some do not. Some, as a matter of fact, they'll just have like rubber mats that have gaps in them, and there's concrete. Your kid walks on the concrete, their edge is toast. You're gonna have to go get them sharpened like right away. A little bit's not too bad, but if you catch them running on the concrete, then their edges are toast, and you have to get them sharpened again. It might take a couple sharpenings or more than typical number of passes with the grinding wheel. Laces. So laces, they're different than shoelaces. They're thicker. These are non-waxed. There's waxed and non-waxed. The waxed, we've used those. Waxed will just, because they got some waxy film on them, they'll stay tighter as the kid's skating. They won't loosen up as stretch as much as like just regular laces. But we switched from wax to regular laces here recently, and my daughter hasn't mentioned any issues with them. Both kids that I had skating when we started, I had the laces long enough where I'd wrap them around their ankles. You'll hear coaches tell you, some players will say that's you're stunting their growth because you want their ankle to be able to move around free range of motion. I don't know. I never made them that tight, but it was just tight enough to give them some ankle support, and if they had long laces, to get to make sure that these weren't hanging too low, because that's another issue. If you have skate laces that are tied, and if you tie them, let me see, tie them real quick. Well, I'm not going to tie them real quick, but if you tie them in the loops or the hoops, you want to make sure that they're not dangling below the boot, because if a kid they're skating and they turn hard, their boot top is going to end up pretty close to the ice, and if this is hanging, they'll probably run it over and cut it, and so then you got to get new laces. I had to do that before. Another reason is they'll lose their edge, right? Because they'll stop on that, or they'll step on that on the ice, and they'll lose their edge and they'll fall. So just make sure that they're not too long. What else? I think the last thing I wanted to talk about, back to skate sharpening. So most rinks have a pro shop with a skate sharpener. I say most. If you're traveling, or some do not. There's some do not. So if you need a skate sharpening in a pinch, like you're at a tournament or something, or even your home rink doesn't have a skate sharpener, or they're just not open all the time. You get early, like a 6 a.m. game, they're not open. So if you expected to get them sharpened, you probably should have went the night before. Another issue is that quite often the person that's sharpening your skates, it's a part-time job. They're not a professional, and so the quality of your sharpening is going to be different every time. So, and this, only if you got the money. It's an investment, and it's paid off for us, because we were down somewhere where they had a rink, but they didn't have a skate sharpener, and it was difficult to find anybody to sharpen skates. We actually had to go to a machine shop to get it done. So it wasn't even a skate sharpener. It was just somebody that had a grinding machine that figured out how to do it to make some money on the side. So we ended up getting one Sparks, SPARX sharpener, which is an automatic sharpener, and it's a great piece of equipment. Super simple to set up, super simple to use. You don't have to be a mechanic. You don't have to be you don't have to have you don't have to have an engineering degree to use it. It's a great piece of equipment. You set the machine up. You align the grinding wheel, which is, they give you step-by-step directions, and then you put your skate in, and you press the button, and you walk away and come back when it's done. The only thing you have to do is remove burrs, which they give you a stone to do that, and a piece of leather to help deburr the blade after it's been sharpened. So highly recommend one of those. It's super simple to use. It's super convenient. You never have to worry about sharpening skates. It is on the pricey side once you buy the equipment, but as long as you take care of it, replacement wheels only cost like $70. And usually I'm sharpening my skates and my 2 kids' skates once a week, every week, and then that grinding wheel lasts me almost the full season. So it's definitely worth the investment. It's already paid off. I've had it for 3 years, and it's paid off. So I think that's it on the skate. Slight video edit. I forgot to mention skate sizing when I did the video, so this is going to get cut in kind of weird, but skate sizing is not what you think when you size your child's shoe. If you try to just transition over to a skate the same size, it's not going to work. Skates are actually sized to size and a half smaller. So for example, my daughter wears a size 6.5 shoe, and her skate boot is a size 5. So just keep in mind when you're purchasing skates, it probably would be wise to try a pair on first, the first time you do it, just to get an idea of how much smaller the boots run for your kid. Like I said, it varies between a size and a size and a half. It also, brands matter as well. So just keep in mind that when you're buying a pair and like I said earlier in the video, you want to make sure they're snug, but you don't want to make sure that they're super loose, because they will be if you buy the same size skate boot as you buy shoes. That's it. I appreciate you guys clicking on my videos. Hopefully you're enjoying them. Please hit the subscribe. Still waiting on my first subscribers, so hopefully I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to work on my issues with speaking and stuff, and trying to get better at this. But I hopefully that this information I'm giving you is valuable. But please hit that like button, subscribe, let other parents know that these videos are available for their viewing. And that's it for me. Crisis DN out.